Welcome and hello. This is a tutorial video on HEC ResSim. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about reservoir network creation. So we're going to create our first reservoir network today. And I'm first going to talk about the reservoir network module in general, because it's our first video on this topic, and then show you 3 ways how to create a reservoir network. All right, so on the screen here, I have a new watershed. All I've done is created a watershed. And as you've seen before, we have some familiar tools on the side and menu options on the top. We're going to go ahead and select the reservoir network module from the module selector. And now we have different menu items and different tools. The reservoir network module is meant to create the reservoir network. So it's probably important to mention the relationship to the watershed setup and reservoir network modules, and I'll do that later on in this video. But let's just go ahead and get started real quick and create our very first reservoir network. The very first way is to create a reservoir network from scratch. So to do that, it's very simple. Okay, we go ahead and select Network, New, and this brings up a dialog box. So we're going to type in the name we want for our network, and that's good. The description is optional, but I'm actually going to type in brand new. All right, so it's not based on anything, it's brand new. And the configuration dropdown has no configurations to choose. So I click new. It gives me a confirmation asking me if I'm sure I don't want to base this network on a configuration, and the answer is yes. And there we go. We have created our first reservoir network here in ResSim. As you notice, network 1, the network name, is listed here at the top, and the lock is locked, so it's ready for edits. Now, doing it this way would force the user to draw everything within the reservoir network using the reservoir network module and the tools provided. And this is not always the best way to create a reservoir network. In fact, it's probably not the best way, because the whole purpose of a watershed setup and creating the stream alignment and the reservoirs and computation points and diversions and other projects is to save those projects into configurations. And then those configurations would serve as a template when creating reservoir networks. So that would save the user a lot of time and energy and effort and brain power when creating new networks, because it serves as a template, sort of like objects and classes. All right, and so let's go ahead and create a reservoir network, but this time we'll base it off of a configuration. Now, to do that, I have to go back to the watershed setup module, which I've done, and I'm going to actually create a configuration. I'm going to go fast through this part of the video because some of these steps have been covered in previous tutorial videos, so check those out if you want more details. This will be an existing conditions configuration, just to give it a little bit of a context. And then let's create a second configuration. We'll call it proposed. Select the existing configuration. Then I'm going to go ahead and draw a stream alignment and add a reservoir. Okay, I think that's good enough to demonstrate what we're doing here. I'm going to save that watershed, and the configuration has these schematic elements included. Time to head over to the reservoir network module. Now we see the stream alignment in place, but we don't have the reservoir, the computation points, or any of the other projects that we added and that were part of the configuration. So again, we go network, new, and as you see, we have the network 1 already saved. The description is brand new. This one's going to be called network 2. The description will be from configuration. And we have our configurations to select right here. So I'll select existing configuration, click new, and boom, our network 2, based on the existing configuration, is in the screen and ready to go. And this, like I mentioned, saves a lot of time and effort and is most likely the better way to create a reservoir network. The third and final way that the user manual describes creating a reservoir network is also a viable solution, and it's this. All right, so what I want to do is go up to network and click on import network. Then I'm going to select the watershed, and this dialog box is a 6-step process. The instructions for each step is listed right here in bold. So select the watershed is what it's asking me to do first. Here's the file directory. Here are all my watersheds in my main directory. So I'm going to load in the network that I just created. So that's in watershed 12. I'm going to go ahead and click next. Now it's telling me to select the network to import elements from. That's going to be network 2, and the description is from configuration. So I'm going to select that, single left click, and then click next. Step 3 is to set the network name and description. So here's the network name. I'm just going to call this one network 3. This is going to be called imported as my description. Step 4 is to assign stream names. Now, I'm lucky it already recognized the different computation points and reservoirs to match up. So what you're going to be doing in this step is assigning the stream number. So its source is stream 1, and the target is stream 1. But everything's all ready to go. If you had a more complicated network, and you may need to take more time finding the exact elements to tie to here. Step 5 is resolving the network computation points. And as before, this is such a simple example, it's almost trivial, but computation point 2 matches to 2, 1 to 1, and reservoir 1 to 1. All right, so the final step is a summary. It's just a sort of a printout of the results showing what happened. So if I click finish, it asks, am I sure I want to create this network 3? I click yes, and this is actually network 2 on the screen here. You wouldn't know it because it's the same thing. But if I go up to network and then open, yeah, let me save that. Here we have network 3. This is imported. And if I open that up, it shows network 3 up here in the network name. So we've created one reservoir from scratch and there's nothing there. Then we went to the watershed setup module, created a configuration with a few different projects and save that to a configuration. Then use that configuration to create a reservoir network as our second option. And then the third option to create a reservoir network was to copy from a existing network. Okay, so those are the 3 ways to creating a reservoir network in ResSim.